Don't you just love my new gardening tool? After our old truck went into the shop and didn't come back out again, I got a loan through our credit union for a pre-approval. And I found on Carfax the truck that we wanted at a dealership that was close to my hubby's work and was really, really close to our budget. So what do? I send him over to the dealership to test drive it out. And he pulls in and he looks around and there's nobody around. Not even the truck ready for him. So he goes into the dealership and he's trying to find anyone who can help. And who you found was what?
A gentleman named Sean.
Sean, we're going to protect the name of the guilty. That wasn't his real name.
Came back, and Sean's first thing he said was, "What I got to do to get you into this truck?"
Like, that was his serious first question. This is 2021, people.
I had said, "You need to come down $987 because that was what I was approved for. That was my financing." And he kind of shuddered and gave me look like impossible. So we went and we sat down.
Didn't he have a little checklist?
He had a checklist. How about your financing? And I stated again to him, to Sean, I said, "I'm already approved for this much. And if you come down to $987, I will sign right now and I'll buy the truck." He proceeds to go see his manager, Mr. Big. Mr. Big sits down and says, "My goal, Steve, is to move metal. That's what I do here. I can't come down $987 because I bought the truck at wholesale." So we go back and forth, back and forth. My blood starts to boil. They are not listening to anything I'm saying. Mr. Big leaves, and now Sean comes back. Sean proceeds to talk to me, asking me the same redundant, irrelevant questions numerous times while trips to see Mr. Big. I didn't buy the truck, basically. I didn't buy the truck.
But we did end up finding another one. So I went to another dealership after listening to Steve rant and rave on the way home about how much he hated this dealership and there's no way he's buying anything from them ever. I found another local dealership who they had the truck ready. They gave him the price that we needed. It gave us what we wanted for the trade-in value for our car because they knew we'd already been online and found out all of this information. Like this Sean guy, like, does he think the internet doesn't exist and we don't know what it's actually worth? Now, you might be thinking to yourself, what does this have to do with my own B2B sales process and how I sell to buyers? I would never do that to one of my customers. Are you sure about that? Time for some real talk now. Did you know that Gartner's 2021 digital buying survey suggested that 43% of B2B buyers prefer a digital experience? How we buy as consumers most definitely impacts how we want to buy as business professionals. We've come to expect the transparency of information and a buying experience that we decide on how to engage, not the other way around. Now, hearing that, as a leader, you're really faced with two choices. Go 100% digital or develop better sellers. Now, which are you going to choose to invest in? Most people who I've talked to and shared this with that weren't at the Gartner conference said, let's go 100% digital. I mean, it's so much easier to manage technology than people, right? And with this hiring crisis that's happening, that sounds like a pretty good idea. Then I tell them that the survey also showed that those same buyers who wanted that rep-free digital experience also had a 23% higher level of purchase regret or buyer's remorse. And that means the C word that not enough of us are talking about or proactively doing anything about, but are very secretly scared of. You know that C word is? Yeah, it's churn. You still think 100% digital is the way to go? Now, the survey also suggested that when decision confidence is high, buyer regret is low, and they measured for things to determine that, such as they've asked the right questions, they've identified the best information, they're aligned at key decision points in the decision-making process. They know how the purchase is going to positively impact their business, and they feel that the purchase was a good decision. Did you notice that all of these are based on what the buyer knows and understands and feels? Can you really afford to not be buyer first in your sales process? Not anymore, you can't. Now, the survey also suggested that those key drivers of their decision confidence came from the group consensus on their business problem and the group consensus on their range of solutions and options for that problem and how that solution was different from what they've tried before. It also depended on how well the reps understood their problem and how well the reps were able to explain the solution for that problem. Here's the thing though, all of those drivers only had about a 5 5 to 8% impact on the buying experience. But the rep's ability to use technology to facilitate that group buying process, that had a 17% impact. So it's really not any surprise that it isn't just one thing or the other. And that's where your tip of the month comes from today. It's not whether or not you go 100% digital or whether you develop your team, but how well you and your reps are integrating the two together. And how you do that is going to completely depend on your specific buyer's preferences. Let's say, for example, that you sell SaaS technology. Think about how you're using your demo in your sales process. Probably somewhere at the end, right? After you've gotten all of the info that you need to know if they can actually buy and will actually buy. Now take a look at your conversion drop-off rate after your discovery and before your demo. What do you think would happen that instead of forcing your buyers to go through your checklist before they could see your product, like the first dealership did to Steve and I, if you instead found out what they most wanted to see, how that was important to the problem they were trying to solve, and showed them that one thing? Now, instead of telling them how it would solve their problem, instead ask them, how do they think that would impact their problem? And how is that different from how they're doing it now? Like our really bad and really good truck buying experience, how well you're able to use technology to enable and enhance the human experience has a huge impact on whether or not they will buy and not churn. So, what's the balance then between technology and human? Now, I just gave you one example, but if you join me on August 10th with Sherry Levitin, we're going to share even more about what that Gartner data said and what it means for the B2B buying experience so that your teams can make and adjust as they go. Now, until then, keep learning out there and keep sharing, and I'll see you next time.